Bienvenue everyone! This is Streaky Geek, and you are watching Desert Island 7. I've always preferred buying actual games to paying for downloads of them. This is not only because you actually own a physical item that has some intrinsic value, but more importantly, games in your digital library, whether that be PSN, Xbox Live Arcade, Steam, etc., are subject to delisting. That means they are no longer available for download, and if your system gets lost, broken, or the game accidentally wiped, you can never play it again. If more games become download only, we may eventually have a situation where many significant video games will be lost forever. Fortunately, limited run games have been managing to get physical discs and cartridges released for previously download only games, but they are by definition in short supply and only for the PS4 and PS Vita at present. It has understandably been impossible for me to capture footage for most of these games myself because none of them is available anymore. I want to say a special thank you to all the other YouTubers who have managed to capture footage for these games previously, and I will credit all of them at the end of the episode. The whole premise of the Desert Island 7 series revolves around taking 7 physical games with you to a desert island, so this is a bit of a bizarro world episode, featuring games that were not only never released physically, but now are not available at all. So if I could only take 7 extinct games that were only released on disc in a parallel universe, these are the ones that I would choose. We'll start out with what looks like a fun fighting game with a gladiatorial theme based on the Starz TV series Spartacus, which also spawned one of the best board games ever made. Spartacus Legends was released for the PS3 and Xbox 360 via their respective stores and sees you slowly build up your slave into a full-blown gladiator, leveling up your stats and gear on the way. This entry highlights one of the biggest problems with download-only games, IP. Games based on movies, TV or other major licenses like superheroes are often owned by multiple companies, or only leased for a finite period of time. As far back as the earliest consoles and computers there have been licensed games, from the ill-fated E.T. game on the Atari 2600, to The Hobbit on the ZX Spectrum, to Super Star Wars on the Super Nintendo. While prices may vary for these games or systems, they are all still available to buy second-hand, and chances are there are several of them on eBay right now. One of the main reasons some people are dismissive of these games is because they can be seen as cash-ins, meaning they're little more than interactive adverts for a current summer blockbuster or something Granny can get for the kids for Christmas. But that is by no means the whole picture. What about amazing games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for the Dreamcast? That wasn't linked to selling another product, and has become one of the most loved fighting games of all time. Appropriately for this episode, it was re-released in HD for download, but has since been removed. One of the reasons I wanted to get this episode done sooner rather than later is because of this game. I thought if I waited much longer, more and more games would disappear, requiring me to rethink these entries. Quarrel was developed by Denki, a Scottish company that primarily made digital interactive TV games for Sky, a major UK satellite TV provider. Quarrel was released for iOS devices and for the Xbox 360 via Xbox Live Arcade, and I was planning to use it for a future episode of the A to Z series to fill the elusive Q slot. I downloaded the demo only a couple of months ago and went into the options to buy the full game recently, only to find it's not there anymore. It has also disappeared from the Apple App Store. I've managed to record my own footage for this game from my downloaded demo, but that too is unfortunately no longer available for download. It's a fun game that combines area control management from games like Risk with creating the best scoring words from possible letters, reminiscent of Scrabble and the Countdown TV programme. With absolutely no associated intellectual property to worry about, I can't see any reason for this game being removed from sale. This is the only other game on this list where I've been able to capture my own footage, but again, only from the demo. The Legend of Korra was developed by Platinum Games for the PS3 and Xbox 360. They are the company behind a number of critically acclaimed and commercially successful games, such as their breakout game Mad World for the Wii, Vanquish, Anarchy Reigns, Metal Gear Revengeance, Nier Automata, the Star Fox games on the Wii U, and the Bayonetta series. From the couple of stages I've managed to play, this seems like a fun game. It's based on the Nickelodeon TV show, which was a spin-off to my favourite animated series of all time, Avatar: The Last Airbender. This game seems to follow the events of the second season, with Korra battling creatures from the spirit realm. The graphics look incredible, and the gameplay feels very much like Platinum Games' other over-the-top beat-em-up games. Korra and Transformers Devastation were removed from download stores recently, which was no big deal for the Transformers game because it was released on disc for multiple systems. But missing out on a game by a developer as well respected as Platinum Games is disappointing. World Gone Sour was developed by Playbrain and published by Capcom, originally for Windows and then later PS3 and Xbox 360. The game was designed to promote Sour Patch Kids, a brand of sweets/candy from America. This platform puzzle adventure sees you playing as these Sour Patch Kids in their mission to fulfill their life goal, to be eaten. Despite being an obvious advert, the game looks appealing and was originally available for a budget price. These sour sweet treats are still being made today, with new flavours being released all the time, but the game has been delisted since August 2015. While it's probably not a lost masterpiece, it did receive mixed to positive reviews and deserves the chance to be played. It's just more than a little ironic that a game based on little gummy people who just want to fulfill their purpose in life of being eaten was made by game developers who just wanted it to be played, and now we can't do that. The Punisher No Mercy was a PSN exclusive released for the PlayStation 3. This first-person shooter, built on the Unreal Engine version 3, is based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name, and sees you play as Frank Castle as he takes down waves of criminals. It also features a decent-sized roster of other Marvel characters associated with the Punisher comics, such as Silver Sable, Microchip, and Jigsaw. It's loud, it's violent, and has deathmatch gameplay like the original Unreal games, where your injuries are significant, requiring health packs to heal rather than magically healing by standing still for a few seconds, like most modern shooters. While this game was nowhere near as well received as the 2005 Punisher game by Volition on the PS2 and the original Xbox, No Mercy does look like it would be fun for a bit of rampaging now and then, even if the single player mode is limited. It was developed by Zen Studios, a company famous for developing the Zen Pinball and Pinball FX series of games, many of which are based on licenses such as Marvel Comics, Star Wars, Plants vs Zombies, and Bethesda games like Doom and Fallout. The Punisher No Mercy only lasted for 2 years, being released in 2009 and pulled in 2011 because of the license allegedly expiring between Marvel and Zen Studios. I can't follow the logic of that though, because the developers continue to offer a number of Marvel-themed pinball tables on multiple platforms, even though their 2 South Park-themed tables seem to have been delisted. TNA Wrestling was released for iOS devices in 2009 and was made by Canadian developers Longtail Studios, who are now known as Ubisoft Halifax. It was replaced in the App Store by TNA Impact, an unrelated game by Namco Bandai. It featured a roster that included Sting, Kevin Nash, Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, Booker T, Samoa Joe and more, and presented them in a fun cartoon style that looks similar to the WWE Rumblers action figures. Wrestling games for the most part are a variant of fighting games with attacks and blocks based on timing or combos, but this game seemed to do something new and original with the theme. Make a turn-based RPG game out of it. They probably chose this path because of the limitations of the touch controls of the iPhone, but it seems to have paid off, with almost universal critical acclaim. The main game sees you creating your own character and then taking them through the story mode, leveling up along the way and purchasing new and more powerful moves. The skill seems to be in choosing which moves to use in each situation and creating combos that work well together. This is another game that will never be re-released again. Even if TNA survives much longer, and wanted to re-release this game, and if Ubisoft agreed to it, most of the wrestlers featured are now under contract with WWE, and there is no way they would allow them to appear in a rival company's game. If WWE managed to buy TNA wholesale, like they did with WCW back in 2001, it still wouldn't happen. Vince McMahon would not want an outdated TNA game to be re-released. This sort of thing will always happen to wrestling games and makes their future look particularly bleak. WWF No Mercy for the N64 was arguably the greatest licensed wrestling game of all time. Even without all the licensing problems, a game featuring Chris Benoit will never be seen again. If anyone out there has an old iOS device with the TNA wrestling game installed on it they'd be willing to pass on, please let me know in the comments. And finally, we come to the game that inspired this list. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World the game was on my wishlist for ages, but I just waited while buying up other games for my collection. Oh, how I wish I hadn't. This was released for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 as a tie-in to the movie by Edgar Wright, but more closely resembled its original source material, the series of graphic novels by Brian Lee O'Malley. The game is a scrolling beat-em-up inspired by titles like River City Ransom, Double Dragon, Final Fight and Streets of Rage, and features a gorgeous pixel art retro aesthetic. You play the role of Scott Pilgrim or one of his friends in a quest to defeat the 7 exes of the love of your life, Ramona Flowers. The game has obviously been made by people with a love for video games, with references to Mario Kart, Kirby and Guitar Hero amongst others. Unlike most of the rest of the games on this list, I do hold out some hope that this game will get a re-release someday. It met with universal praise and was a popular download, and the designers have expressed their desire to get the game back out there. It may just be a matter of time before any links with the movie expire, and the game has more to do with the comics anyway. August 2019 will be the 15th anniversary of the release of the first story, so that seems like a perfect time for a re-release. Let's just make sure it's on disc this time.
If you made it this far, then cheers for the support. I have dozens of videos planned and will try to get them out at a reasonable rate. Please share, like and subscribe. You can follow me as StreakyG on Twitter and StreakyGeek on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch and Patreon. So that's a wrap, and stay groovy.